Royal Champion charges are one of the most consistent starters for many strategies, so let's explain her best equipment, the perfect invisibility timing, and more, as this is your one-stop shop for the Royal Champion charge. There are two ways to use the Royal Champion charge. One is a short version using less invisibility spells, but is primarily used to funnel a section of the base before using a recall spell to return her back to the army for later use. However, you also have a longer version, where you're using most or all of your spells within the Royal Champion charge itself. This is aimed at clearing as much of the base as possible before she falls, often using an Earthquake spell to quickly speed up the charge while using an active ability. Now, choosing which version will mostly depend on the army you're taking. Troops like dragons usually prefer longer Royal Champion charges to clear as much of the base as possible, while Root Riders prefer shorter ones to set up funneling. These are just a few examples, but should give you a good idea of her role in each version. Now, to use the Royal Champion charge, you need the right equipment, so you'll always want to have the Electro Boots, as it offers some nice aura damage to surrounding buildings and defensive units while adding additional HP and self-healing, which gives her everything a Royal Champion charge needs all in one equipment. It also doesn't need to be maxed to be used properly, so having this around level 15 tends to be a good starting point to use it with solid damage and survivability to make the Royal Champion charge work. As for her other equipment, it often depends on which version of the Royal Champion charge you're using. If you're using a longer Royal Champion charge, the haste vial is often recommended due to the speed buff it gives to the Royal Champion, both passively and during the ability. This is best used with an Earthquake spell to quickly take down buildings, but should only be activated when you're near the core and or dealing with higher HP defenses. As for the minimum level, having this at least around level 15 gives enough duration to be used within long Royal Champion charges, but also great for the movement speed and attack speed increase the ability gives you while it's in effect. As for shorter Royal Champion charges, using the Rocket Spear tends to be more ideal. This is especially true as you're not using the main ability during the charge and is better off used with the army to get more value and key defenses down from a distance. So having this around level 18 is ideal enough for the 9 spears she can throw out while dealing quite nice damage per spear. This additionally boosts her DPS and HP passively, making for a strong equipment whenever you're doing a shorter version of the Royal Champion charge. As for the other equipment like the Hog Puppets and the Frostflake, these are just not worth using for the Royal Champion charge, as they are mainly survivability equipment and offer no passive DPS, making it tougher for the Royal Champion herself to get value from these in both versions of the Royal Champion charge. But what's worth doing is using code CORRUPT to support me and the channel. Another crucial part to any Royal Champion charge is the hero pets that she'll use. More often than not, you'll always use the Spirit Fox for any Royal Champion charge. As its name suggests, it's able to turn itself and the hero it's attached to invisible for 4 seconds before having a 6-second cooldown before it's able to use its invisibility again. This allows you to pair the Spirit Fox up with your invisibility spells to alternate the source of invisibility to keep the Royal Champion alive for as long as possible. If you are a Town Hall 16 to Town Hall 18 player, this pet is non-negotiable and should always be used with the Royal Champion during her charge. Just don't use the Rocket Spear ability early with it, as the Spirit Fox has a higher likelihood of dying while the spears are being thrown out. As for her other pets, these are more or less for those who do not have the Spirit Fox, especially if you're below Town Hall 16. This includes the Unicorn, as it stays back and can heal some damage off the Royal Champion, but is often just used to make sure the pet itself isn't luring out the defensive CC. Diggy can also be used for the stuns, but isn't really worth it, as the invisibility spells are usually being used more often than not, making the stun wasted. You could also use the Phoenix, but it's better on other heroes like the Barbarian King or the Dragon Duke. Additionally, Lassie is the only other alternative if you are a Town Hall 14, as it's a pet that can do some damage but can be prone to wandering ahead of the Royal Champion, so really only use this pet if you're a Town Hall 14 player. With the setup done, we can finally focus more or less on the charge and the timing of your invisibility spells. No matter the version of your charge, you are always alternating the invisibility between the Spirit Fox and the invisibility spell. To make things easier, start the charge at the very beginning of the attack so you can use the battle ends timer as a clock to manage your spells. So with the invisibility spell lasting 4.25 seconds and the Spirit Fox invisibility lasting for 4 seconds, you'll want to use your invisibility spells every 10 seconds to get the most value. So starting at 3 minutes left, you'll want to use your invisibility spells during the increments between 7 and 6, as this will allow you to have enough invisibility to where defenses won't instantly target your royal champion, as she will only be vulnerable for a split second if you use the timing correctly. This can be repeated so long as the Spirit Fox remains alive. Once the Spirit Fox goes down, however, you'll want to use your invisibility spells every 4 seconds to continue the charge and prevent her from being targeted. For those who lack the Spirit Fox, namely Town Hall 14 and Town Hall 15 players, you'll want to stick to using invisibility spells every 4 seconds to get the best value. Additionally, there are things that you can do during the charge that will both speed it up and get additional value. One is skipping defenses, as you can use invisibility spells over the defense she is targeting, and then she'll path to the next defense while still being invisible. This overall will speed up the charge thanks to the passive damage from her Electro Boots, making it possible to get more value than meets the eye. Another thing to learn is double cycling invisibility spell, especially as certain defenses will immediately attack without delay compared to other defenses. This includes things like the Long Shot, Monolith, CC, and Inferno Artillery, to name a few. So in this case, use your invisibility spells every 4 seconds, aka at the intervals of 7 and 4, so you can prevent her from being spotted while near defenses like those. However, you should consider subscribing to the channel, as not many people are subscribed and any support is greatly appreciated. Now that you have the proper timings down, there are several different threats that you need to deal with when using a Royal Champion charge, even if they're not crafted defenses like the Crusher Mortar or Bomb Hive. One threat is the Invisibility Spell Tower, especially since they can force the Royal Champion to path around the group of defenses, making it harder to deal with during the Royal Champion charge. However, you have multiple ways to deal with Invis Towers. This includes using one invisibility and one skeleton spell, as this can activate the spell tower so long as one building in its range is being attacked and the unit is within the zone for 1.2 seconds. Alternatively, you can use an Ice Block spell instead, thanks to its 96% damage reduction for 7 seconds, making it possible to wait it out before moving forward with the charge. Additionally, defenders will often use traps to their advantage to separate the Spirit Fox and Champion as early as possible, or at least force an early ability to be used. Things like spring traps, giant bombs, small bombs, and tornado traps can be used to make your life difficult. While these are harder to predict, you can usually identify spots that might contain multiple giant bombs and small bombs, so long as the gap between defenses is 2 tiles wide. As for the Giga Bomb, that will do a ton of damage to both the Royal Champion and Spirit Fox, so it's often best to just avoid sending the Royal Champion into it. Or if you're using a shorter charge, you can recall the Royal Champion after it's activated. You can alternatively use an Ice Block spell to prevent much damage while protecting both the Spirit Fox and the Champion herself. With an underlying idea of how the Royal Champion charge works, let's give you a few armies you can try with this charge. The two most well-known options is either Root Rider Smash or with the Masked Dragon, especially as both troops have gotten new levels and have much more of a reason to be used. However, there are alternative strategies that can utilize the Royal Champion charge to great effect. For shorter charges, you can use this within Super Bowler Torch attacks, as the pathing you can clear is amazing, or using this with a Super Hog army to path the hero diving can be crucial. As for long Royal Champion charges, Hydra is really the only other strategy that can utilize having little to no spells, while the champion gets as much value as possible. So the Royal Champion charge is clearly an expansive option still, with plenty of equipment, pets, and armies you can choose from, while being able to keep your Royal Champion alive in both long and short charges. However, if you like to see more about an army using it, such as Root Riders, check out this video right here, but YouTube says you might prefer this one instead.